What's going on, everyone? It's the Pizza Buffet, week 1 in the NFL here on the Forward Progress YouTube channel, presented by Fanduel. I'm excited to be back here for another season. I see the chat is going in the early going. Some regular faces, Scott, Frank from a long time ago, who used to watch my Periscopes long before the YouTube days as well. Appreciate everyone who's joining me here this morning. Obviously, an eventful morning already. With the Tyreek Hill news breaking right before here. Reports that he got arrested on the way to the field. Bunch of money goes in on Jacksonville. Then Adam Schefter tweets that he's going to play, which looks like he's going to play now. Bets back the other way. The NFL, it's very eventful every single year. I love it. I will get to a breakdown of every single game that's going on. As we get into the stream here, if you're not subbed here on Forward Progress, make sure you hit that subscribe button down below. Turn on bell notifications. You'll get notified whenever we drop new content. And of course, if you can just do me a favor, smash that like button down below in the early going. It lets YouTube know that a lot of people are liking this stream, sends it out to other people who might like the NFL as well, and we can help grow our following here. So do me one favor and smash that like button. Now, before we get into it, a lot of you have probably watched the previous iterations of the Pizza Buffet in years past. I'm going to talk about a little bit of what the differences will be this season. So I'm going to try my best to keep it to an hour. 11 to 12 as best as possible. Sometimes I'll go over. It's just the nature of it. But I want it to be hard-hitting. I want to give people enough time afterwards to bet whatever they want to do. Some people run to casinos to make plays or their local convenience store, whatever. I'll try to keep it to an hour. I'll cover every game, rotation number order on the board. I'll give my thoughts on some props in games where I like them. Now, if I give thoughts on props, I'm not going to give out specific numbers. I'm the guy that preaches giving out specific numbers. If I say I like a prop, it's good across the market. Going to make it that simple, that clear. I'm not going to say go bet it at this book, go bet it that. Obviously, do your line shopping. I'd recommend that every time. But for the nature of keeping this going as much as possible, if I still like a prop, it's widely available. Everywhere would be an edge on that prop. So let me make that explicitly clear. And then at the end of the show, I'm going to end with a Q&A. Another difference this year, I'm not tracking in betstamp for a few reasons. For one, people skip the content. They go follow the picks. I don't want that. I'm trying to build a content company, a media company. Don't want to do that. Secondly, I want to be very, very clear on this. I am very likely not going to win on major market sides and totals at this time. You probably aren't going to win either. My bets are in for the week on major market sides and totals. I wouldn't bet stuff now. There's sports books in the world that are taking 100K plus on NFL sides right now. They're very confident in their numbers. I will give my full handicap of the game, but I would encourage you, watch the rest of our content on Forward Progress over the course of the week. Get your bets in earlier. If you're betting for entertainment, no problem. But if it's the expectation of winning, it's very, very challenging to do so on Sunday. So what I'm going to do is talk through every game. I will not give out explicit picks. I will give out my numbers on the game. I'll talk about what I would play in instances, but it's going to be on you to decide what you want to do with your own money. And I'll make it very, very clear. So this year, no locked in plays, still a handicap of every game, still props that I like, all that stuff. But we are approaching maximum market efficiency. So I'm not going to go nuts and lock in a bunch of plays. Hopefully that makes sense to you. If you want to argue it with me afterwards, DM me on Twitter at Rob Pizzola, and we can discuss why I think that's the best situation for this year. Before we get into the games, if you see news in real time, drop it in here. It helps me. I try to keep my phone down as much as possible over the course of the show, and I try to stay connected with the audience as much as possible. But if you do see breaking news, please drop it in the chat. It helps me. It helps everyone. I'm very focused on the game previews, delivering you information. If there is breaking news, just help me out a little bit, as that goes a long way. I see more of you in the chat now. Do appreciate every single one of you in here. Hey, Steven, how you doing? Adam Orphan, great to see you in Vegas. Scott, you're back as well. We got the whole crew in here. Okay, before we get into all the games, make sure you're kicking off this NFL season with a win on Fanduel, America's #1 sportsbook. I'm a big fan of Fanduel. I've used it ever since it came into Ontario. It's just a really good product offering, as you see during our live watch-alongs as well, right here on Forward Progress. Right now, all customers get a profit boost every single NFL game day. Today, there's a bunch of boosts. You can double your winnings profit boost token on any moneyline bet. There's anytime touchdown profit boost tokens, and there's same game parlay profit boost tokens for the 4 p.m. games and Sunday night football. FanDuel has a ton of ways you can get in on the NFL action. You can bet money lines, spreads, player props, game props, and a bunch more. Super simple live betting, lightning fast settlements, instant withdrawals. FanDuel makes betting on the NFL easier than ever before. Just visit fanduel.com/forwardprogress to download FanDuel today. That's fanduel.com/forwardprogress, all one word. Of course, you must be 21 plus and present in select states, or 18 plus and present in DC. Opt-in is required. Bonuses are issued as non-withdrawable profit boost tokens. Restrictions apply, including token expirations. See terms for both offers at sportsbook.fanduel.com. If you have a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit fanduel.com/RG. I do preach the responsible gaming component of this a lot. If you got problems, can't control yourself, make sure you call the numbers that are on the screen. Goes a long way. You don't want to go down a path where, you're struggling with day-to-day life. All right, let's get into it. And we're starting rotation number order. It's Jacksonville and Miami. Obviously, we're going to discuss the Tyreek Hill news, but looks like Tyreek Hill is playing in this game. He did. There's pictures out there showing him getting arrested before the game, but he's playing. FanDuel's at 3.5 right now. It's kind of like a 3.25 number. Total in the game is 49.5. Now, first and foremost, wind doesn't look like it's a factor today. There was not rumors, but the forecast earlier in the week, potential thunderstorms. Looks like a fine game today. Light winds, low chances of rain. Don't factor the weather into the equation all that much. Jacksonville's completely healthy. Miami, Jalen Phillips had 2 full practices. He's going to play, likely on a snap count. Jalen Ramsey also on a snap count. So a couple of key players on the Miami defense on a snap count. My number in this game, with everything we know now, is Miami -3 and the total of 49.5. So I think that this is a valuable bet on the Jacksonville Jaguars. Now, I don't know what this market is doing right now, and maybe you just want to wait for a little bit more money to trickle back in on the Dolphins because of the Tyreek Hill situation. But I like Jacksonville's offense going into this year. They lost Calvin Ridley, but they get Gabe Davis, Brian Thomas Jr. That makes up for Ridley. The offensive line is an issue for Jacksonville. But the Dolphins right now, even with Jalen Phillips back, probably on a snap count, I don't love their ability to get to the quarterback with the current roster on the team. I don't see them generating a lot of pressure in this game. I actually don't like the Miami defense as a whole. Think about the offseason. They lost Christian Wilkins. They brought in Calais Campbell, but Calais Campbell is a shell of his former self. Shaq Barrett, who they signed, retired in training camp this year as well. New defensive coordinator in Anthony Weaver. I think Jacksonville, is going to move the ball on Miami. I do have concerns on the other side of things, definitely, without a doubt. The Miami offense is good. Offensive line might be an issue, but Mike McDaniel, my brother from another mother, he's very, very creative, finds ways to get the ball out of Tua's hands quickly into the hands of very, very speedy players. They'll probably create some big plays in this game. Jacksonville has a good D-line. They have Eric Armstead. They got Josh Hines-Allen now, by the way. Josh Hines-Allen. But cornerback is a problem for them. So there's big matchup advantages for Miami on the field here. Remember, Darius Williams gone. to the Rams. Campbell, Darby, not a great starting corner crew. But with that said, I do think that the Jags offense is slightly undervalued. That's where I come in on the edge on the Jacksonville Jaguars in this game. Jags are nothing. That simple. Next game, Steelers and Falcons. Don't have the final quarterback news yet. It was reported that Russell Wilson is taking the field first for the Pittsburgh Steelers, dealing with an injury. So we don't know what's happening at quarterback here. We do know that they're without left guard Isaac Seumalo, which is a problem considering the interior of the Falcons defense, Grady Jarrett, David Onyemata. Atlanta had a pretty clean injury report. Kyle Pitts is going to go after 2 full practices with a hamstring injury. Money has trickled in on the Falcons over the course of the week. You got some sports books out to 4 right now. Fanduel still at 3.5. So if you want to play the Falcons in this game, it's a pretty good price. Total at 42.5, which was bet up by a release earlier on in the week as well. I'm down on both of these teams. My number in the game with what we know now is Atlanta minus 3.5 and a total of 41.5. So I guess slightly under at current market numbers. I don't like the Steelers offense. It's really not anything to do with preseason. I know a lot of people are fixated on the preseason and how they struggled. I don't think the Steelers showed us much in terms of how they want to run that offense with Arthur Smith. But the Steelers O-line is bad. Quarterback leaves much to be desired. If we got news that Justin Fields was going to play here instead of Russell Wilson, I would be much more interested. For a few reasons. I don't think Justin Fields is very good, but you had a Falcons defense who was prepping for Russell Wilson all week. Going to get a different quarterback thrown at them last minute. I like that angle. I think that there's something quantifiable there where teams just don't know what they're getting into. The real issue I have with the Steelers this year, or in this game in particular, Arthur Smith obviously loves to run the ball. Atlanta had a very good run-stopping defense last year. I think they finished first overall in EPA per play against the run last year. They bolster the front seven with Matthew Judon. That's going to be a mismatch. So I don't really see the Steelers being able to move the ball all that well. But I'm also not convinced that this Falcons offense are going to be world beaters right away. A lot of people are really high on the Falcons this year, especially their offense. Kirk Cousins tore his Achilles in week 8 of last year. Didn't play in the preseason. 36 years old. That is a legitimate concern. Brand new offensive coordinator, Zach Robinson. Didn't play in the preseason with any of these plays. Secondary weapons for Atlanta at receiver, Darnell Mooney, Ray McLeod, they leave a lot to be desired. Kyle Pitts, not 100%. I think there's enough concerns here. Steelers defense, they give teams problems. They do. Now, it's a challenging game for me to find value on either side. We can wait it out here, see if, as Ian gives me the 2 eyes emoji. But if Fields plays, I might revisit this. But it seems like Russell Wilson is on track. From a props perspective, I actually do like Ray McLeod's receiving overs across the market. It's a very low number, in the low teens. For a guy who's going to be playing a lot in the slot there, now sort of mid-teens, I should say, I think that one's a little bit mispriced. So if I was attacking a prop in this game, Ray McLeod receiving overs. But that's about it on this one. Keep it moving. 450 of you in here right now watching live. Do me one favor. Smash that like button down below if you can. And if you're not subbed here on Forward Progress, make sure you do so. Minnesota and the New York Giants is our next game, which to me is a very interesting game in that Vikings Giants has attracted like so much betting attention from people that I know. Right before we went on air here, or right as we were on air here, there was a release on the over in this game, which I slightly agree with. But seems like there's a lot of drastic opinions on this game, and I'm not one that has those drastic opinions. I make Minnesota a 1-point favorite. I make the total 42. It's where I stand right now on this. So not much in terms of valuable bets. Weather's fine at the Meadowlands. 10-mile-an-hour winds, nothing big. No injuries to report. Jordan Addison went full practice on Friday. He's playing. I like Brian Flores as a defensive coordinator. With the Dolphins, he took a very, very bad defense to a top 10 defense. They added Stephon Gilmore, which gives them a better matchup against some of these Giants receivers. But in particular, Brian Flores is a guy that likes to send pressure. And a guy that doesn't do very well with pressure is Daniel Jones. Now, the offensive line will be better than last year for the Giants. Last year, they had so many injuries. They were depleted at so many times through the season. But even though it's going to be better, it's still going to be a problem. And I trust Flores to do a lot to confuse Daniel Jones in this game. Now, Brian Daboll's taking over play calling duties for the Giants. I like that for them. He's a very sound offensive mind, I will say. But I do think the Vikings defense gets some wins. On the other side, I would like to believe in the Sam Darnold reclamation project. I really would. I think he's in a good position with Kevin O'Connell as a head coach. Obviously, the receiving weapons he has available to him. I'm just not there yet. I'm not. There's been so many times in the history of this league where someone leaves a situation where they maybe had a bad O-line, bad weapons, bad coaching. They go to another team and the talk is, well, this is their chance to shine. And sometimes it happens. Guy like Ryan Tannehill revived his career after he left Miami. But for the most part, it doesn't. Sam Darnold, in my opinion, is a bad quarterback. I'm willing to change that opinion because he does have the pieces around him that fit. I'm just not going into the year buying that he's going to be able to turn it around. Now, the Giants have a bad secondary. So there's opportunity there, but they also have a very good front seven. Kayvon Thibodeau, Brian Burns, Dexter Lawrence. These are some very good players that are going to have an advantage over the Minnesota offensive line. So this is a very much a wait and see type of game for me on the Vikings and on the Giants. Well, it's week one. It's kind of the same thing with everything. We think we know these teams are going into the year, but that can change on a dime. So I am not involved in this game in pretty much any capacity. Even on the prop side, I don't have much going on here. So we'll just keep it moving. Carolina at New Orleans. Very much looking forward to this game for a few reasons. One, from a betting perspective, also former friend, I wouldn't say former friend of Forward Progress, but one of our content creators last year, Dr. Eric Eager, is now in the front office for the Carolina Panthers. Now, Carolina and New Orleans, this kind of got bet back and forth, but market moving towards Carolina on game day here. There's very few fours that are still out there. Total right now sitting at 41.5, pretty much across the board. My number in this game is New Orleans minus 3.25, total 41.5. Obviously, you can tell what I bet this week, what I'll be cheering for based off the number in the game. Carolina has some cluster issues, injury issues at tight end. Ian Thomas went on IR. Tommy Tremble's out. It's going to be fourth-round rookie Jatavian Sanders carrying the load. Saints will be missing Kalen Saunders on their D-line. Willie Gay dealing with a back injury. He's dealing with an injury pretty much like every week of the season, but he's probably going to play here. I am buying into an improved Carolina offense. Bryce Young was terrible last year. There's no sugarcoating it. I think one of the worst seasons I've ever seen at quarterback. That's not an exaggeration. Abysmal. The offensive line unit for Carolina this year is so much better. So much better. Upgraded at both guard positions, Robert Hunt, Damian Lewis. They get their center back healthy. There's reason for optimism here. They bring in Deontay Johnson. They bring in Dave Canales. Dave Canales, who fixed Geno Smith and Baker Mayfield. Obviously, a lot of this is known to market right now. But my opinion is that we are still undervaluing the Carolina offense going into the year based off of how terrible they were last year. The Saints don't generate a lot of pressure. They were bottom 5 pressure rate last year. They didn't produce a lot of sacks. They have some good run stoppers on the D-line. They did add Chase Young, which will help them out. But overall, Carolina has an opportunity for success here. On the other side, I don't like this. I don't like the Saints all around as a team. But offensively, I get that the Panthers' defense is bad. They don't have a lot of star-studded players. They're okay at corner. They have Derek Brown, who's a disruptor on the defensive line. But talent-wise, definitely one of the worst defenses in the league. But this Saints O-line, in my opinion, is very bad going into the year. Huge question marks. James Hurst retired. Ryan Ramczyk left. They're starting a first-round rookie at left tackle. Trevor Penning's now right tackle. It's not a good O-line. And I think that there's some optimism there because of the changes in the coaching staff. Clint Kubiak at OC. I'm not sure that's enough to get them over this lack of personnel. So that's where I'm at on this game. I like some props here as well. The main one, again, market wide, Jonathan Mingo. I like his receiving yards over for Carolina. A lot of the talk is about Xavier Legette, who they drafted. You have Deontay Johnson, Adam Thielen. I actually think Mingo is going to get a lot of those snaps as slot receiver. Low total again, 17.5. So that's one area I would look at in props. Before we get about, by the way, that I like that. That also came up on the prop show yesterday with Hitman, which we're going to be doing every Saturday here on Forward Progress. Hitman is one of the best prop bettors on the planet for NFL. And there's lots of moving parts, but he always gives the number that it's good to. I would highly recommend. It's a short watch. Even if you want to do it after this show, check out yesterday's prop show with Hitman. Okay, Fields is starting. So we're going to see what this does to the market now, because we're going to get likely some movement in this game. Still kind of hanging around the same spot. Here's my opinion on the Field situation. Makes Pittsburgh more likely to win. Also makes Atlanta more likely to win by blowout. Here we go. Atlanta money coming in. Disagree. Personally. We're getting into forget about Tomlin as an underdog. I don't buy into the trends-based handicapping and stuff like that. I've watched Russell Wilson over the last couple years. There's no one that's going to convince me that he is anything more than a backup quarterback at this point. He sucks. Dak Prescott just got paid. Holy shit. 4 years, 240. $60 million quarterback, Dak. Lots of news this morning between Tyreek, Dak Prescott extension, and Justin Fields starting Lots of news. All right, we'll keep it going. Patriots and Bengals. Market kind of has come in on the Patriots over the course of the week. Obviously, news related here. The big news, T. Higgins is out. Terrible hamstrings. T. Higgins can rival Darren Waller for his how bad his hamstrings are. We still don't really know what's going on with Jamar Chase, unless that's been clarified at any point. Not that I've seen. Maybe you guys have seen something in the chat. Obviously, that would make their receiving core really thin if Jamar Chase was even on a snap count. You got Andre Yoshivas, Trent Irwin, Jermaine Burton. Not exactly household names by any stretch of the imagination. Total has been bet down below 41, down to 40.5. Very hard for me to price this game because of the Chase situation, trying to project snaps for the Bengals wide receivers. We have injuries on the Patriots side. Their left guard, Sidney Sue, is out with an ankle injury. Jabril Peppers, Josh Uche were both slapped with questionable tags, expected to play. They're without Christian Barmore. Tough game. I make the Bengals -8, total 41. However, my degree of confidence in that number is extremely low. The Patriots O-line is a mess. A mess. Their starting group sucked in preseason, and normally I don't put a lot of stock into preseason, but they were taking tons of penalties. They couldn't block. This is a new head coach. It's not Bill Belichick there for obvious reasons, but Gerard Mayo, defensive coach, I don't think they're going to be able to sort these problems. And Cincinnati has a very strong pass rush, talented players in the pass rush. So you have Jacoby Brissett playing behind a terrible offensive line. They don't have playmakers. I mean, if New England can't run the ball, we got major problems here. And maybe they can because the Bengals don't have the best defensive line. DJ Reader's gone. He went to Detroit. So they've had problems stopping the run in the past without Reader. But I imagine that they stack the box. They make Brissett try to beat them. I'm not sure that's going to happen. I think this is going to be a down year for the Patriots defense. I think Belichick was very good at maximizing their play with the talent that they've had over the years. There's been lots of players who left that defense, struggled outside of that system. I don't think the Bengals are just going to move it up and down the field with the injuries, but I do think that they win out over time. Few props I like in this game. If Antonio Gibson is active, which we got to watch for, he was priced in like the 19.5, 20.5 rushing yards range. Off the board right now. So we're going to keep an eye on that. But if Gibson is active and that gets reposted in that range, I like the over there because I think New England's going to be so run heavy today. I also like Chase Brown over on rushing yards in the low 30s. I think that there's going to be closer to a split with Zach Moss. And Chase Brown, to me, has some explosives in him as well. So anything below 35 there, which is, again, across the market, I wouldn't mind the over in that situation. Okay, keeping it moving here. We're going on to, again, a game that's seen a lot of movement this week. The Titans and the Bears. Titans took a bunch of early action in this game. It's come back out to Bears -4 here on game day at some books, or 3.5 juiced, like we see with the Chicago Bears at Fanduel right now. Total in the game. There was a few releases that brought this up through 44. it's back down on the lower side of 44, which I don't agree with. I make the number in the game, Chicago 3.5, total 44.5. Titans with a couple key players questionable. DeAndre Hopkins with a knee injury. Hopkins has played through injuries his whole career. I expect that he will again. He's just that guy. Chidobe Awuzie, limited practice on Friday with a calf injury. I like the Titans corners this year. Would love to see Awuzie on the field. Looks like Keenan Allen's playing for the Bears. Chicago's been dealing with some injuries on the D-line in practice this week. Montez Sweat, DeMarcus Walker, Darrell Taylor, but they're all likely going to play in this game. I like the Titans offense relative to market. Connor Hartle, that prop you just posted in there, Titans highest scoring team of today, 45-1. Love taking a shot on that. I really do. Because Brian Callahan is completely changing this offense. This isn't the Mike Vrabel coach team anymore, where it was grinded out with Derrick Henry as much as humanly possible. It's not that. Lots of 3 wide. Good receivers on the outside. I think that this offense has upside. We saw it in the preseason as well. Again, preseason, don't put a lot of stock into it. But it was starters against starters in a lot of cases, and Tennessee's offense won out. We're getting news that Jamar Chase is officially active now, by the way, just for everyone out there. So my number stands pat at where it was. Chicago's defense came alive in the second half of last year, but a lot of their quote-unquote life was generated through turnovers. I have major concerns about their ability to pressure the quarterback. They only had 37 sacks last year. 11 of those sacks are gone in the offseason. They don't have much in terms of pass rush in their front seven. Tennessee slings it. They have a prime opportunity to move the ball here. Could get some turnovers. We don't know what Levis is, but this is his opportunity, and I like that opportunity for him. On the Chicago side, lots of trends. You know, this fade a rookie quarterback making their first career start. The problem with trends like that is it's not apples to apples. Like we're talking about Caleb Williams, bona fide number 1 pick. Some people considering him a generational prospect. It's not the same as fading some bum who started in like picked in the 6th round. So I don't put any stock into that trend. Caleb Williams is in a great situation. He's got great receivers all around him. We saw in preseason, he can make throws on the run. He can scramble to extend drives. Tennessee's cornerback room is better. L'Jarius Sneed, Chidobe Awuzie, assuming he plays. They still don't have the pass rush there. So I don't think Chicago's going to get stymied completely here. But I think if there's one unit in this game that's undervalued, it's the Tennessee offense. Be rooting for the Titans today from earlier in the week. Now with the total back down, if anything, I would be playing the over here. I think Rome Odunze's receiving yardage total might be a little high. It's in the low 40s right now, down to 39.5. I think that might be a tad high. If I was going to play that, though, now it would be very small bet. But with DJ Moore, Keenan Allen there, I don't know that there's enough opportunity for Odunze just yet, even though I love him as a player. All right. 550 of you in here right now. One more time, if you're not subbed here on Forward Progress, just click that subscribe button down below. Get notified of a ton of new content over the course of the week. I'm back later tonight for a Sunday Night Football watch-along as well, and we're going to hit the openers at Fanduel as well as those come up. Keep it moving. Bills and Cardinals. Not an interesting game for me. I'm at 6.5 and 46.5 as my numbers for this one, which is a little bit off market on the total. Should be noted that this is a wind game. Not like insane wind, but we're looking at like 20 to 25 miles an hour. Doesn't hurt Josh Allen all that much. Hurt the kicking game a little bit. hurt the passing game, maybe for Kyler a little bit more. Buffalo's without Matt Milano again. Arizona without BJ Ojulari, he's on IR. Darius Robinson isn't ready to come back from IR yet. So that D-line is thin. That's been the conversation around Arizona and a lot of the offseason. Not much to do here, in my opinion. I'm very interested to see the Bills' offensive philosophy this year. When Joe Brady took over last year, offense did get better. They want to run the ball, in my opinion, this season. I think they're going to be very run heavy. I think that's also contributing to the drop in this total as well. I think you're going to get a lot of rushes from the Bills this season. And I think they're going to be very effective in this game doing so, in all honesty. I just don't see that personnel in Arizona's front seven stopping them. It's a matter of whether Arizona can hang around. There is a lot of upside with the Cardinals offense. I mean, when Kyler came back last year, it did change the offense quite a bit. They had a good running game going. They bring in Marvin Harrison Jr. through the draft. I mean, Marvin Harrison Jr., Trey McBride, you got James Conner and Trey Benson. It's not bad at all. And there's like some weaknesses in this Bills defense. Matt Milano, that was supposed to really help them. He gets hurt again. He's out for a few months. They lose both safeties in the offseason. For a team that can attack the middle of the field with guys like McBride and James Conner, the opportunity is there for Arizona. I don't know that they're going to be all that efficient, but I mean, it would not surprise me if the Cardinals won this game. Also wouldn't surprise me if the Bills won by 31. It's week 1 of the season. It's the NFL. All that stuff matters. But Josh Allen, passing yards. A lot of people might look at the number, which is low 240s, and be like, wow, that's a low number for Josh Allen, 240.5. I don't know that it's low enough with the way that I think Buffalo is going to play things this year. Also, look at the spread in the game. Likely game state is that the Bills are leading a lot, probably running down the stretch. I think that number is a little bit high, considering I think the Bills are just going to have so much success on the ground in this game. All right, we're going to keep it moving. I think the last early game today is the Colts and the Texans. My number in this game is Texans roughly 2.75, total 49. Couple of injuries of significance here. Colts wide receiver Josh Downs is out. He's their number 2. Adonai Mitchell and Alec Pierce are going to have their snap counts increased. Something to watch for as well. Looks like the Colts are going to be without their kicker, Matt Gay. So you get backup kicker in week 1. Spencer Schrader used to kick for Notre Dame. I like to pay attention to those. I think sometimes they are undervalued in market. Patrick already saying that Matt Gay has been ruled out as well. There's one realistic path to the Colts having success in this one, and that's to run the ball effectively. Now, Houston ended last year with a pretty good run defense. I don't know that they have the best run-stopping personnel, but under DeMeco Ryans, who's a very intelligent defensive mind, they were able to put the clamps down in a lot of games, with the exception of against the Colts. That final week of the season, the game to go into the playoffs, Jonathan Taylor had 188 yards on 30 carries. They now have Anthony Richardson in the mix as well, who only played 14 plays last year. This is a very potent rush offense with a very intelligent head coach in Shane Steichen. There is a path to success here for Indy in being able to shred this defense on the ground. I would say if in the early going, If I watch this game and Indy cannot establish the run, I'd be very concerned and might look to Houston in live markets. But going into the game, I do think that they'll be able to do so. The problem is, I don't think the Colts have any chance in hell of containing the Texans' offense through the air. I mean, they just have so many weapons now. The Colts can stop the run. They can apply some pressure, but their corners, they don't really have much hope of holding up in this game, in my opinion. Their secondary was not very good last year. They're coming back with the same secondary this year. That's a real problem. The only thing that can work in the Colts' favor here, in my opinion, is that Houston plays dumb offensive football. Here's what I mean by that. D'Amico Ryan's defensive head coach, Bobby Slowick, their offensive coordinator, they run a lot on early downs. Like you would think, you got CJ Stroud, you got all these weapons, Diggs, Collins, Tank Dell, Dalton Schultz even. You figured they would throw the ball a little bit more earlier. They don't do that. 51% of CJ Stroud's throws last year were at the sticks or further. Part of the reason why is because they actually faced so many third and longs last season. So I like Steichen a lot more than Ryans. I like the Colts' ability to game plan a lot more than the Texans. If I knew Houston was just going to come out and throw the ball all over this field, I would lay 3 in a second. I don't believe that's going to be the case. Because of that, it would only be Colts or nothing for me in this game. CJ Stroud's passing yards, it's so square, honestly. It's like 275.5. The only thing limiting him from not reaching this number again is Texans game plan. I like that number over. Think it's too low. Think it's too low against this secondary. Okay, late games. Chargers and Raiders. This one's kind of been hanging around in the same spot. A little bit of ticking back and forth. Now kind of ticking more towards the Raiders in this game. +3 -120 at Fanduel. I think the number in this game should be 3. Flat 3. A little bit of value on the under, in my opinion. I have this at 40.5. A little bit lower than market. Part of the reason why, I don't want to spend a lot of time on this game because I'm not interested really. But I think both of these teams just really want to run the ball a lot. Jim Harbaugh, new head coach for the Chargers. Greg Roman, the OC. Greg Roman loves to run the ball. They'll mix in some play action. The problem is they can't really stretch the field vertically. They just don't have the passing game. So I don't know that we're going to get many deep shots, big plays in this game. The Raiders defend the run pretty well. They brought Christian Wilkins over from Miami. I don't see a lot of success for the Chargers offense. Other side of things, I think Antonio Pierce is actually scared to death of Gardner Minshew. If you've just seen the press conferences this year, I don't think he has any faith in his quarterbacks. We know what worked for the Raiders last year, which was don't turn the ball over, try to establish the run. I think that they're going to go with the same game plan that allowed Antonio Pierce to keep his job. Luke Getsy is there now as OC. I see this as a heavy rushing game for both teams. That's kind of why I'm coming in with the lean on the under. I don't honestly hate some alt unders in this game because I just think that there's some scenarios where you see like a 13-10, maybe a field goal fest, something like that. Just not a lot of explosiveness in these offenses. Gus Edwards' rushing yards is in the mid-40s right now. I kind of like that to the over, just purely based off volume. Some might be more preferential to J.K. Dobbins. You probably see a split. But that's where I would go if I was playing anything on this game. August Young, appreciate you, brother. $100 donation. Best of luck to you today as well. We did get KC on Thursday night, even though it was a huge sweat. I'd never asked for donations here on Forward Progress, but they are open. All the money just gets reinvested back in the company. It's not going in my pocket. We build out new studios, increase our content, get better content creators, although our content creators are pretty damn good right now. But donations always welcome. And as Jason points out in the chat, helps him out as well. Helps us pay our producers. Okay, keeping it moving. Washington, Tampa Bay. Two teams that I do not like one bit. Current market right now is at 3.5. Some markets pushed out to 4. Washington was kind of like the trendy play. I don't want to say trendy, but they took some of the early action. The late action has come in on Tampa Bay. To me, this is as close to a perfect number as I think is possible. 3.5, 42.5. Don't want to spend a lot of time here, but I will give my breakdown of this. I don't like either team, as I mentioned earlier. We might get some storms in this game. We don't know yet. Washington's injury report is clean. The Bucs are without Logan Hall and Kalaya Kancey. That's 2/3 of their 3-man defensive line with Vita Vea. That's a problem. You know Todd Bowles is going to send pressure. Rookie quarterback. I don't know much about Jaden Daniels. Didn't watch him a ton in college. Some impressive throws in preseason. I'm not ready to say that that's going to be any indicator of whether he's going to be successful in the regular season. Tough to start on the road for a young quarterback against a very good defensive mind in Todd Bowles. For as much as I don't like Todd Bowles as a head coach, I think he's very intelligent. Washington secondary, a disaster. Going to be one of the worst in the league this year. Benjamin St-Juste, Mike Davis, Emmanuel Forbes had struggled with his rookie year. Question is whether or not the Bucs can keep up their offensive play from last year. Obviously, new offensive coordinator there. Had a lot of luck. I don't want to say luck on third down, but lots of success relative to their early downs on their late downs. Two teams that I'd like to fade end up playing each other in week 1. I end up on number. There's not much more than I could say to that. I just don't want any piece of this game whatsoever. Nothing on a props perspective either. All right. Sticking with the late window. Broncos and Seahawks. Little bit, there was a release this morning. I think it was Toons' group that pushed the Seahawks out from 6 to 6.5, which I agree with. My number in the game is like a 6.75, bordering on 7, total 42. I will say I'm a little bit, I don't have confidence in this number because I traditionally don't do a great job of projecting rookie quarterbacks. I'm rooting for Seattle today in some survivor pools. And I'm just hoping that my read on Bo Nix is correct in that, I mean, a lot of people were singing his praises in the preseason. I mean, I watched him. He really didn't have to do much. I think that there's going to be, I mean, you look at the spread of the game. There'll be lots of game states where he's trailing and needs to push the ball. I don't think that's going to work for them, honestly. I mean, the Broncos receiving core, Cortland Sutton and like nobody. And I don't even think Cortland Sutton's that good, honestly. The secondary for Seattle is solid. If Denver can establish the run, they have a chance here. Uchenna Nwosu's out for the Seahawks. It's a blow to that defense. But I imagine Seattle with a very good defensive head coach now in Mike McDonald just tries to shut down the run and make Bo Nix beat them. Can he do that? Possibly. I just don't like any of the matchup advantages on the field if Seattle stacks the box. On the other side of things, Denver's defense, in my opinion, is terrible. They lost Justin Simmons, Josie Jewell. They basically have Patrick Surtain, and as long as you avoid throwing the ball to his side of the field, you got matchup advantages. Seattle's offense got a lot better as the year went on last year. They bring in Connor Williams on the offensive line, which is big for them at center. Huge upgrade. Abraham Lucas is out. He's on the PUP list, so George Fant is going to start there. But it's a better offensive line than a year ago. I think that's going to rub off on Geno. I like the matchup here for the Lions. And by the way, little bit of a narrative here, subjective opinion on the game, but cannot imagine a worse starting spot for a rookie quarterback than Seattle. I think that's just a disastrous. So agree with the move this morning. Seattle in the game is the side that I would like. Dallas and Cleveland. Fresh off of his new $60 million contract. Dak Prescott. And the Cowboys are 2.5-point dogs. Totals 41.5. My number in the game is Cleveland 1.5. Total 41.5. For a Cleveland game in, it's still summer. It's September. It's not October, November, but not much to talk about in terms of weather. A little bit windy. Looks like 10 to 15 miles an hour. Won't be bad. What will be bad is the state of the Browns O-line, and that's kind of where I'm getting to my number here. Jedrick Wills is out at left tackle. Jack Conklin is questionable. James Hudson, who's terrible, and DeJuan Jones are the backups respectively there. I mean, I don't have to tell. It doesn't take a rocket scientist, brain surgeon to figure out that Micah Parsons and DeMarcus Lawrence on the edges is going to pose a real problem here. A lot of uncertainty in this number because I have no idea what Deshaun Watson is at this point. Like I have no idea. Zero clue. With each passing day, it seems less and less likely that he's ever going to be the Deshaun Watson of old. Didn't play in preseason. I don't know. I honestly don't know. The Browns are also running a brand new offense with Ken Dorsey. Lots of RPO. Lots of spread, which I actually kind of like for Watson. Make a quick read, throw the ball. Maybe that helps with the issues on the offensive line for today. The good news is that if Watson sucks, they do have Jameis there, who's more than capable. So at least they have a qualified backup. On the other side, Dallas is going to face many of the same problems. Tyron Smith is gone. Tyler Biadasz is gone. Tyler Guyton might end up being a great left tackle, but he's a 21-year-old rookie where all the talk at the draft was that he's going to be more of a project, and he's being rushed in right away against Myles Garrett, Zadarius Smith. I mean, it's equally as troubling a situation. I like the defenses in this game. I don't think that either team can really come up with explosive plays. I see Curtis in the chat. It's funny. This is the first time in a long time I didn't give the Cowboys. I completely forgot. I am a Cowboys fan, people, by the way. Disclaimer. But I'm very capable of being real with the audience. Prop I like, Zeke receiving overs, not rushing overs, receiving overs. What happens to Dak Prescott when he's facing pressure? Dumps it off in the flat a lot. Zeke's going to be in the game a lot. I know people are excited about Rico Dowdle. 7.5 yards for Zeke, in my opinion, too low. Too low. Alt receiving, I like where your head's at, Jason. 25 plus, 570. I think I don't know how either team generates explosives with these offensive lines, but that's the one that really stood out to me in this game. Okay, final game I'm going to cover today, Sunday Night Football. I'll be live on air for this game tonight. I'll actually be live 15 minutes before the game, giving out specific prop plays for this one. Clive Bixby is going to join me in the first half for the live watch along. When FanDuel opens up lines for the upcoming week, we'll talk through them. We'll watch the game. There's a lot of moving pieces here. My number on the game is Detroit 4.5, the total 51.5. I love this matchup for the Lions, but the market did too and bet Detroit out to where they are now. We don't know whether or not DJ Reader is going to be in the lineup for Detroit tonight. I do not have him in. That would be another boost, in my opinion. The Rams are without Alaric Jackson, their left tackle, who's suspended. Rob Havenstein, their right tackle, is banged up. Their top corner, Darius Williams, is on IR. Aaron Donald is retired. Yes, all of these things are known at this point, and that's why the market moved out that way. I think Aaron Donald's absence is way bigger than, like, one of the best defensive players in the history of the league. In this game in particular, you have arguably the best O-line in the NFL protecting Jared Goff. I don't know what the Rams front seven is going to be able to do in this game. They're bad on the defensive line. Secondary's improved, but if you can't get to Goff at home, he's going to find his weapons. And you have a new defensive coordinator in Chris Shula for the Rams as well. I like the Lions to score in this game. The O-line for the Rams is an issue. Now, the Lions don't have great secondary rushers outside of Aiden Hutchinson, and they do have a very good quarterback in Matt Stafford, good receivers. But ultimately, in that environment, I do think the Lions are going to be able to generate at least some pressure in this game. Whereas I can't say the same the other way around. If DJ Reader is in, that is a huge boost to the Lions' run defense. It makes them more reliant on the pass, and I just don't think that's going to work out with this O-line. So 4.5, 51.5, my numbers on the game. I'm playing an SGP for tonight's game. I was going to give it out on the show tonight, but if you want to get in on it beforehand, Judah Fort Gang on our Wednesday Best Bets show this week gave out Lions alt spread. I'm going to play Lions alt spread, the same one that he gave. It's slightly worse price now, minus 9.5. I'm going to parlay that with Jared Goff 300 plus, which I don't think is out of the question. It's the home game. They're going to push. And then I'm actually going to go to my guy. People who've watched the streams last year know my guy, Colby Parkinson. I want alternate receptions, not receiving yards, receptions 4+. Because I'm just building a game script here. When the Rams get behind, I think Stafford's going to target some quick passes to Parkinson, which he's previously done with tight ends as well. Pays almost 26-1, 3-gamer. That's where I'm going for tonight's game as well. This team is about to be insane. Okay, I'll stick around for some questions here really quickly. If anyone does have any, I've been seeing a lot of these throughout the show, but it's week 1 of the season. I wanted to get to as many games as possible, wrap this up in a nice fashion. A reminder, I mentioned it, but I'm back tonight, 8 p.m. Eastern time. Join me over here. If you've never watched a live watch along before on Forward Progress, give it a chance. I know some people just sit and watch their TV. They're into the game. Second screen experience, this live watch along. I promise you will not be disappointed. It is an absolute banger. If you want to get in early, drop a pizza emoji into the chat or something like that. I'm all for that as well. I like to read the comments before we go in. Survivor. I did not go over that. I was very surprised at the amount of people who ended up on Seattle. I picked Seattle in a lot of my survivors. The challenge with giving out survivor picks is it really depends on the size of your pool, right? And what you project the ownership percentages to be. I still don't like the idea of taking Cincinnati. I really don't. I think there's lots of opportunities to use Cincinnati in the future, whether that's home to Washington, home to Denver, home to Las Vegas. I really would just take who you feel best with in terms of Buffalo and Seattle. 2 6.5-point favorites. Most pools, significantly less ownership than the Bengals. That's the route I would go. Hope the Bengals lose, even though, it's only about 20% that they do. That's the route I would take. 45 no picks in Circa Survivor week 1. Pretty crazy. Just a bunch of donations. 45K worth of donations right there. You can always leverage Survivor Grid here, which Jason's pulled up on screen. The only challenge with Survivor Grid is I don't find the pick percentages to be all that accurate when compared to the real percentages. So take it with a grain of salt. But you'll see the EV that they have. Sort by EV really quickly there, Jason. Yeah, Seattle and Buffalo would be near the top. Detroit, a close third. And that's kind of the way that I leaned in my head as well. Okay. That's going to wrap it up for me. I got some bets to fire in before game time as well. Little top-down betting. As a reminder, check out Fanduel. Fanduel.com/forward progress. Help support the show if you are going to bet. It's week 1 of the NFL. Don't go nuts. Seriously. We're an hour from kick in a lot of these games. Bet responsibly. Have some fun. But bet within your limits. 1-800-GAMBLING, as always. If you have any sort of betting issues, you can always DM me on Twitter as well, at Rob Pizzola. With any questions, I'm here for you if you're going through some stuff. Appreciate everyone in here. On the way out the door, smash that like button. Make sure that you subscribe as well. For myself, Rob Pizzola, my producer who makes this happen behind the scenes, Jason Cooper, we'll be back here tonight. Everyone enjoy your NFL Sunday. This has been Pizza Buffet Week 1 presented by FanDuel here on Forward Progress. Peace out.